Assalamu alaikum everybody. Welcome to Deep Exploration Code. In this video, I will show you the basic of how to make 3D objects with millimeter precision. After opening Blender and File Explorer, which contains the image we want to draw on Blender, we will divide our scene view in two parts. The first one for modeling the object and the second one to put the image after going in Image Editor. Then we drag and drop the image into Image Editor. Now I delete the cube, the lamp and the camera by clicking on Delete button. Then I click on Shift plus A to choose a cube of 15 mm, which represents the dimension of the object thickness. Then I click on End to make the following sidebar appear. Then I set the value according to the X and Y axis, which equals to 128 mm and 182 mm respectively. Now I go to Edit mode. Next, I click on Ctrl plus R to get the first edge, and I place it at the beginning. Then I move it to 25 mm as follow. After that, I click on Ctrl plus R to get an edge, and I place it at the beginning of the edge we just created. Then I move it to 60 mm as follow. Afterwards, I click on Ctrl plus R to get an edge and I place it as follow. Then I move it to 30 mm as follow. After that, I click on Ctrl plus R to get another edge and I place it as follow. Then I move it to 15 as follow. Next, I click again on Ctrl plus R to get edge and I place it as follow. Then I move it to 15 mm. Now I select the following faces. Then I make an extrude along the Z-axis by clicking on the E button. then on Z and I move it to 20 millimeter. After, I select the following faces. Next, I make an extrude along the Z-axis by clicking on the E button, then on Z, and I move it to 35 millimeter. Now we will click on Vertex Selection Mode. Next, we click on a vertex with the left mouse button and then on a second vertex by clicking on Shift plus left mouse button. Afterwards, I click on M and then I click on At Last. After, I do the same with the next two vertices. Now, to round the next side, I select the next two vertices. Then I click on Bevel. By moving the yellow point, we notice that on one side it is blocked by an edge. To solve this problem, it is enough to select the following edges. Next, click on the right mouse button and select Dissolve Edges. You can see that the edges have disappeared. Now when I select an edge, then I apply a bevel to it, we notice that another problem appears, which is the displacement is not homogeneous on both sides. To solve this problem, you just have to go to Object Mode. Then in Item, we notice that the dimensions are not identical and are not equal to 1. So you have to select the object, then click on Ctrl+A, then select Scale. This allows to put back all the dimension to 1. Now if we go back to Edit Mode and apply a bevel to it, then we will have a homogeneous displacement. Now I give it a value of 30, which is the radius. After that, I increase the number of segments. The more they are segments, the smoother it is. Here I take a value of 15. Now I am going to mask this part. First I create an edge by clicking on Ctrl+R, then I place it on the right. After that I click on the G button, then on X to move it along the X axis, giving it a value of -25. I do the same for the other side. Next I delete the edge. Afterward, I will create my faces using an add-on. To get this add-on, I go to Edit, then I click on Preferences. Next, I write F2, and then I select it. After closing the windows, I select the vertex that is in the center and then I click on F, which create a face directly. I do the same for the other side. Now I select the next 4 vertices, and I click on F. Then I select the 4 remaining vertices and I click on F. In order to round the sides now, just select the 2 edges. Next, click on Bevel, then move the yellow point and finally select the following parameters. Now I am going to remove the 2 faces to arrange them. To do this, I select a vertex, then I move it in the y-axis by clicking on G, then on Y after clicking on Snap. I do the same for the other vertex. Then I select the following vertices and I click on F to get a face. Now I select the next 2 faces. After that I click on Numpad 1. Afterwards I click on E to make an extrude along the Z-axis. Next I write the value 30. Then I make a second extrude and set the value of 15. Now I select the next 2 faces and extrude them too, giving them a value of 30. Next I select 2 vertices, then I click on M and I click on At Last. I do the same for the next vertices. Now to be able to connect the two following faces, I select them first. Then I will use another add-on by going to Edit, then to Preferences, and I write Tool. And I select Loop Tools. And I close the window. Next, I click on the right mouse button and in Loop Tools, I click on Bridge. Here is the final object I got. Now, let's go back to object mode. If I want the same rendering as my image, I will first give it a color by following these steps. Then I click on Render Properties and I choose Cycles. Now I add a lamp and a camera and adjust them as follows. To get a line effect that appears in the image, just check Freestyle. Now I decrease the value of max samples to get a finer render faster. To finish, I launch the rendering and I obtain the following image. Here is how to model an object with millimeter precision. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe to my channel. And don't forget to click on the bell icon to get new video updates. Thanks for watching and I hope to see you next time.